You're watching the Fantasy Rankings Report only on Fantasy Now Plus. Hello, my name is Christopher Kurt, but you can call me Topher. Welcome to the Fantasy Rankings Report. And I'm here with our substitute co-host, who's been on the past couple weeks helping out while Michael and I have been gone. John, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing good. Ready to wrap up these last couple weeks and hopefully keep my streaks going on some of my fantasy teams.
Yeah, dude, I feel you. I escaped a fantasy nail biter, 188 to 185, and it all came down to Devon Achane. So I was a little scared about that by the time we got to halftime.
I heard a few people biting their nails on that one.
Yeah, and I'm the reigning champ in that league, so I need to show out. Hi, Jamie. Hey, thanks for being here as always. Hey, Jamie, by the way, just telling you now, Jamie and I do a Sunday morning show through going for two, and we do Sunday morning sit with that. I'm going to be with my dad that day, and so he is going to come on the show, and he's the reason that I got into fantasy football. He's like 80,000 years old, so he'll have advice and sage insight from the Stone Ages about fantasy football. So
I played with my dad 1 year, and he's like, "Yeah, go ahead, you can take it." So.
Yeah, my dad's been the commissioner of a family league, I want to say, for close to 30 years.
Okay.
So, yeah. So he's the second oldest of 10. So big Catholic family. All the boys and the in-laws were involved, and then one of them dropped. And I got in. Hell yeah, advice from the 1800s. Absolutely, Jamie. Absolutely. Okay. Now, obviously, if you were here for the first couple minutes, you're like, what is this buffoon doing? I'm doing whatever I want. On this show, we compare running back and wide receiver rankings from multiple different fantasy football companies, including our own Fantasy Now Plus, and we put those into a spreadsheet, get a whole conglomerate of what are the rankings across the board, and how can you use those to your advantage. We're going to go through that here in a little bit. I do want to start off by mentioning that the show is brought to you by Fantasy Now Plus and the Fins Talk Sports Network, and you should subscribe to both of them. The links are in the description below. Also, Underdog Fantasy. This is a great time for you to do this, because some of you may be out of fantasy leagues, but the football season's not over. So throw yourself into Underdog Fantasy, play for $5, and get 100 in bonus funds by using the promo code FN Plus. And I'll tell you, as somebody that plays on Underdog, those bonus funds come in really handy. I won $85 off a $5 bonus money win last week, and it felt wonderful to be like, okay, I earned that money from a separate bet, and now I get to use that $5 for free within the app, and it got me 85 tangible bucks. So you use the promo code FN Plus, FNPLUS, and boom, you can get Underdog Fantasy. Get it going. Okay, let's kick it to our fantasy rankings question of the day. On this segment, we talk about questions that pertain to rankings or start sit or something like that. We can stick to our focus area of expertise, where I focus on running backs I focus on wide receivers, and Michael, or this week, John, focuses on the running backs. Boom. Let's see. Hey. Only have to use FN Plus when I make my first deposit. It's so easy, Jack can even do it. That's saying a lot. That is saying a lot. Yeah. And you only have to use that the first time. That's actually the only time you can use it. I can't use that $5 thing and get $100, because I've done that with a different promotion a few years ago, getting onto the app. But my rankings question of the day kind of goes off of these players that I'm going to ask you about are all ranked at 20 or lower in their respected position and have definitely had weeks where they've been much higher and ranked much higher and viewed as much higher. So, which of these star players would you sit this week? So, there's no amount that you have to be like, oh, you have to start 3, sit 2. You just tell me, based off of the way this guy's playing, would you sit him or are you going to start him? Let's start with Justin Jefferson playing against the New York Giants.
Well, you never think you would ever hear someone say, yeah, I'm sitting Justin Jefferson this week. And I still don't think you can. You're just hoping McCarthy's going to find him eventually. He's finding Addison and he's finding Naylor now the last couple of weeks. So based on where he's at and, the rest of the season, he's got to find his way with McCarthy to go into next year. So I would say you got to start Justin still. If it's, if you have something that you can put in that's an obvious, then yeah, you're going to put, some of your other top names in, but I would lean to having to start Justin, or not having to start, but I would start him against the Giants.
Okay, so I agree. It's hopeful. I'm sitting him. Here's why. Over the past 4 weeks, Justin Jefferson has averaged in half-point PPR 3.4 points a week. That puts him at wide receiver 97.
It's
97. I'm going to go over some receivers that have better stats than them without a touchdown, because Justin Jefferson doesn't have a touchdown. Khalif Raymond, Xavier Smith, Demario Douglas, Mitch Tinsley. See, that's not Cavante Turpin. Isaiah Williams, Tyler Lockett. Like it's bad.
I was gonna say as an example, but then I thought about it and I would start Jaden Reed over him. I mean, he's just now coming back, but Chris Watson, with his chest injury from last week and whatnot, I would start Reed over him. That's why I was. It all depends on what you got, but some people aren't gonna have a choice.
Jane Reed's been back for 2 weeks and almost has the same amount of yardage as Jefferson does.
It's been putrid.
Yeah, so
I've got him
Jefferson has 85, Reed has 84. Okay. Let's look at this real quick. Think any of Jelly of the Month. Thank for writing in. Think of that Tet, Woody, or London play doing waivers tonight and would rather grab Parkinson. I think you go grab Parkinson for sure. I think you grab him. He has had touchdowns in the last 4 or 5 games. He's getting more involved in the targeting game, especially with my husband's home. Frank. Oh, that door's open. That's why it's so loud. I'll answer this and then I'll close the door. I'm gonna say that you do Colby Parkinson. I think McMillan plays. I think Marks plays. I don't know about London. Don't talk on that, John. I'm going to close the door.
Yeah, no problem. I agree. I was going to say the same thing. I do believe Tet will go in, and Woody will play. Woody, who knows? He'll probably get injured again. It seems to be his way of going. They said, he's been injured like 23 times this year. But Tet's going against Tampa Bay. So you saw what Pitts did last week to Tampa. So I would say that Tet has a good shot at having a good week, as long as Young can do something.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to ask these other ones, and it's a ranking questions of the day. It's a quicker question, so we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on it. Ashton Genty against the Texans.
I would sit Ashton Genty. He has done nothing the last. I just had it pulled up and I lost it. The last 5 weeks,
Yep.
under 30 yards. The last 3 weeks, under 30 or 30 yards or under. 31, 30, 35, so 30 yards and no touchdowns. He's just not doing anything with the ball, and that ain't gonna give you any points. So you can't rely on that for playoffs for sure.
Oh, absolutely not. I definitely agree with you. I probably am sitting Genty. Emeka Egbuka at the Panthers.
There again, I have a couple shares of him, and he did well early on, but as of right now, I'm sitting him. You got Evans back, you got Godwin there. McMillan showed with Evans last week, so he's their third option.
Yeah, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. But he had his highest yardage total last week at 64 yards since week 5, besides 1 week. So 64 was his highest yardage, second highest yardage total between week 6 and week 15. That's not good. Not at all. I'm sitting Egbuka in, and I'm playing Jaden Reed. Breece Hall against the Saints.
I'm also sitting him. Trying to pull him up here. He's barely done more than what we were just saying about Genty. I mean, what, 40 yards total in the last 4 weeks more than Genty and 1 touchdown. So
Yep.
That offense is putrid. Even New Orleans has been, holding their own on the defensive side. Brady Cook, is taking over as quarterback. So I'm staying away from the Jets completely.
Yeah, same here. And these are people that if you would have said you're not starting any of these guys during your fantasy playoffs, you'd be like, what? Last one. BTJ. BTJ against the Broncos.
I'm sitting him. Broncos defense, BTJ's, I don't have his stats pulled right up on top, but just based on recent, Jacoby Myers is the number one there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a chance for him to break out because the Packers did have 2 receivers that had 55 yards. Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel both had over 60 yards against them in week 13. The Packers were in week 15. So there's a possibility. And BTJ over this past 2 weeks has had his yardage significantly better and got a touchdown. So he's a flex play for me, depending on who I have elsewhere. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Jelly of the month, stream Goff or Brisket. Hate Stafford's matchup. I think you go with Brisket. He has been a top 10. It's either 10 or 12. He's been a QB1 no matter what.
Floor of 18 fantasy points every week.
Yeah, he has quite literally been a QB1 every single week this season. You have to play him, and I love playing Goff.
They got Marvin Harrison practicing today, so
yeah,
we worry with the Michael Wilson owners, which I am also one of those, that we've been living in the fruit of his receptions.
Yeah,
Harrison is good for that offense with Brissett giving him 2 options now. So not for us in the fantasy land, but
yeah, correct. Yeah, I'm going Brisket. Absolutely. Okay. Would I rather have Woody or Booty? This is just him asking dirty questions. And my opinion is why not both? Steady and safe. Here's one of our 2 main segments on the show. Steady and safe. This is the part of the show where we each highlight 3 players in our positions of expertise that the consensus rankings agree upon. The person who didn't, sorry. Oh, hey, Ron, John, you're hitting the R button. Our document's going crazy right now. I'll start us off right here. I want to talk about Zay Flowers. He's wide receiver 16 in this week's rankings with a range of 5. And based off of the rankings that we have this week, 5 is a very small range. He had a tough week against Cincinnati, which nobody thought he would have. But besides that, he's been getting at least 60 yards in almost every single one of his games since their bye week. And he finally scored another touchdown against Cincy. I talked about it all offseason. Like, hey, Zay Flowers, he gets the consistent 60 to 70 yards every week. Get him more touchdowns. And he finally got another one, his second of the season in week 15. Zay Flowers, I think he's steady and safe as they come.
Yep, and you just think that Lamar's gonna, wake up eventually and keep that momentum going if he can ever,
yes,
start. So mine, tier 1 is actually Josh Jacobs. He is running back 8 in a range of 2 between 7 and 9. They are at Chicago. Chicago's allowed 12 touchdowns to the running back, 126 yards per game, 5 yards per carry, 84 yards the last 3 weeks. So he's definitely in that running back 1 territory. He's averaging 4.1 yards a rush. He's scored 13 touchdowns, getting 17.8 fantasy points per game. He's got 890 yards on the season. You're going to rely on him, or actually they're relying on him 90% of the time inside the 5-yard line. In addition to, he's got 40 targets in the passing game this year. So I'd say those are all,
Oh, absolutely.
That's your boy.
Yes. Yeah, I love me some Josh Jacobs. Absolutely. The next guy I want to talk about in my wide receiver tier is Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver 27, a range of 7. Now, a reminder, some of these things are steady and safe based off of what the experts say, what the consensus says, not exactly what we feel. Because while the experts say that, I don't feel comfortable about Michael Pittman. He has had less than 30 yards in his last 4 out of 5 games. And with Phillip Rivers at the helm and only throwing 126 yards, he only threw 120 yards last week, and they play San Fran this week. I don't see that number increasing a whole lot. The experts say he's pretty comfortable as your wide receiver 3. I think he's volatile. I don't know if I'd even play him this week. I would. This is where I would start Justin Jefferson over him.
Yeah, that's for sure. That the bringing back, Rivers and just meshing with that offense, and Alec Pierce is another one that's going to suffer with that, but Pittman for sure is gonna take a few steps back, and I think the range could have been a lot wider on that too, but they didn't really adjust him too much.
No.
My running back 2 that I chose, second running back I chose was Tyrone Tracy. He is a fringe running back 2. He is in a range of 3. He is the running back 20 on the week. They play at Minnesota. 3.9 yards per rush is his current average, 42 yards per game. He's only had 2 touchdowns. He is splitting with Singletary there, so they've, shared the load for the most of the season. 9.7 fantasy points per game. He has made up some of the ground with 25 receptions. He's got an 80% catch rate on 31 targets. The last 4 weeks, though, he's actually stepped it up a little bit and did 56 yards per game with 2 touchdowns, 1 run, and 1 receiving. So
there you go. Yeah, I think he's pretty squared away solid this week. Luther Burden is the third steady and safe wide receiver, according to the experts I want to talk about. He is wide receiver. I accidentally put the wrong number. 39, the wrong number in the document. So wide receiver 39, but he has a range of 4. And I think that also hinges on his health status and Rome Odunze's health status. He got hurt in the game, third quarter of the game last week, and was held out of practice yesterday and today. He's day to day. And Rome Odunze has been off and on. So if Luther Burden plays, I think he becomes that central target for Caleb Williams against the Packers. And that's going to be a high scoring game where there's going to have to be some passing attack in that.
Yeah, most definitely. Injuries and Odunze is going to play a role there.
Yes,
for sure. My third that I chose actually surprised me in the ranking numbers, but I guess the range might make a difference in that, and that was Kyren Williams. He's showing on our list as ranked 16 this week, but then you look right above him and you got Woody Marks and Derrick Henry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He's starting way before both of them. So I don't know. He's pushing into the top 12, so he's pushing that RB1 status. Blake Corum is there, and he's been active of late, so that might pull some attention from it. But so far this year, he's got 10 touchdowns on the season, 3 receiving touchdowns, receiving 4.9 yards per carry, total of 1,030 yards on the year, 16.1 fantasy points per game. He's got a total of 36 receiving targets. Last 4 weeks, he's averaged 70 yards per game, 5.2 yards per carry with 4 touchdowns. And that includes Corum, who's had, I'd have to look it back up, but at least 3, I believe. He is sharing time, 37. Corum's had 37 touches, 4 touchdowns. There you go. I did have it noted here. In the last 4 weeks, they do face Seattle, who is only allowing 94 rushing yards per game, and they've had 0 rushing touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. So the Rams are going to have their hands full. We saw last week, that was a kicking field goal game against that Indy almost pulled that one out.
Yeah.
And there wasn't,
I mean, any given Sunday.
Yeah. And that was against Jonathan Taylor. So they're stout against that run.
So I will tell you, I'm looking right now. The Seahawks have only allowed 3 games above 80 yards rushing. And that was to JT last week, Bijan Robinson in week 14, and Kyren Williams in week 11. And Kyren Williams was the last running back to score a touchdown on them. So, plus, Kyren Williams and Blake Corum have been top 10 running backs in the past 4 weeks in half-point PPR scoring, which is pretty incredible. So, having him at running back 16, according to the experts, he needs to be much higher. And Blake Corum as well. People are underselling what that duo is providing right now. The biggest part of our show is here. Experts against experts. This is the part of the show where we each highlight 5 players in our positions of expertise that consensus disagrees on. We'll talk about each from one tier. For example, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, so on and so forth. Our tiers are groups of 12. So wide receiver 1 through 12 is the first tier, 13 through 24, the second tier, so on and so forth. Okay. So today I want to start talking to you about Jameson Williams. I have talked very not favorably about Jameson Williams this season. I have not been a big fan of his work. However, over the last few weeks, he has really taken a huge step forward so far to the point that he is wide receiver 9 in fantasy points per fantasy points. Sorry, I need to click a wrong button. Sorry, wide receiver 15 in fantasy points per game on the season. And over the past 4 weeks, he has been fantasy points per game he's been 9th in the league. And this fits. He's wide receiver 9 against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. His range is 11. He's highest ranked at 7, lowest ranked at 18. So we've seen his fantasy points per game kind of in a small view and in a large view. Now let's talk about his target share, air yards, and end zone targets. He has 19% target share. He has 36% of the team's air yard share. And he only has 11 end zone target share on the season. However, over the past 4 weeks, he has had 25% target share, so that's up. Air yard share 40%, that's up. And end zone target share of 25%. The only thing he's higher than than Amon-Ra St. Brown is target share. Amon-Ra is only higher than him in target share. He's lower than air yards and end zone targets over these past 4 weeks. He has made a big leap in how he's playing ever since Sam Laporta got out. There's very much a direct correlation of how that is going. And it's kind of crazy to see how that goes. He did have a week 12 where he was held catchless, but ever since their bye week, they came back. Dan Campbell took over play calling. Laporta went out. He's had a touchdown in his last 5 out of 6 games. He's had over 100 yards in 3 of those 6 games and over 88 yards or more in 5 of those 6 games. He's becoming essentially what JSN is, except more touchdowns more frequently. Besides that one flub game against the Giants, very, very good stuff. It's kind of incredible to see how he has maneuvered everything, because his first half of the season, he only had 2 games above 45 yards. He had 2 touchdowns in both of those games that he had over 45 yards in, but otherwise he was coming away with 2-1-1 receptions. It was not good. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who they're playing, give up the 11th most fantasy points to the wide receiver. And when they've played wide receiver duos that have some oomph to them, it's been crazy. JSN and Cooper Kupp totaled 193 yards and 15 receptions against them in week 2. Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison combined for 14 receptions for 140 yards against them. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in week 7 had over 250 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, over 20 receptions against them. Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce both had 15 yards against them. So when they're facing teams that have a legitimate duo, they are duoing hardcore. I will say they have allowed less bigger games lately. They've only allowed 2 100-yard games since week 10. And before that, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. So they're allowing a little less. But so what? Jameson Williams is a must start, must play. If you held on to him this long, he could really be the reason you win a fantasy championship this year.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, you look at the last 3 weeks, minimum of 9 targets. All 3 weeks, he's, got 7 receptions. Since that bye week, he's just lit it up all the way around. So that's a definite one there.
Absolutely.
My running back 1 tier is actually a guy that just now coming back a couple weeks ago, Bucky Irving. He's RB10. a range of 9 between 7 and 16. He's got 58.7 rushing yards per game the last 3 weeks since coming back from the injury. 3.5 yards per carry with 1 touchdown. He's 16 fantasy points per game, averaging 3.4 receptions per game. He's got a snap share of 50% with Sean Tucker coming in and, stealing those red zone touches and getting touchdowns. They're going up against Carolina this weekend, who is allowing the 10th most fantasy points to the running back, 5th most touchdowns of 13 total this season. The Bucks have all the wide receivers back, like we were saying earlier, so that should do them well in opening up the running game as well. They got Atlanta after that in your favorite for those in the fantasy championship weeks. They're allowing 9 touchdowns to the running back position. When Tampa Bay first saw them, Bucky had 37 yards on the ground. So, that was a little light, but that was early on in the year at week 1, week 2, something like that. So I can see him, only going up and getting the yards.
Oh, absolutely. I am. And Sergio, we're going to be with you here in just a moment. Thank you for commenting your questions. I definitely think Bucky Irving is in line to just make bigger things happen. They've got to trust him more. They just do.
They shut him down way too early last week.
Yes. And he's outplaying Tucker and White, obviously. The thing that I'm concerned about is that Tucker is getting the goal line carries, and I'm worried that's going to cap his ceiling. Sergio, I have for the tight end, Travis Kelce or Colby Parkinson, pick one. Colby Parkinson, easily, especially with Patrick Mahomes out. Yeah, what do you think, John?
I agree. Colby Parkinson, he's just been on a heater with that Rams offense. Kelce, he posted something earlier today. He's already looking in the future. He's focusing on that wedding and the retirement and everything else. So Parkinson is in it to, they're going to keep him involved, and I would have to pull it up, but he's scoring lately, and not Goff, but Stafford is looking at him, and now with Devontae out, potentially out, we don't know yet. We haven't heard anything, but that hamstring didn't look good. So I would say he's gonna at least. I mean, why not? Why play him this week? When you have the options of course, Puka and Colby. And I mean, they're still wanting to get that first seed, but I think they've got enough firepower with, as we were talking earlier, Kyron, Corum, Puka, and Colby. So, yeah,
absolutely.
I definitely go that way.
Colby Parkinson over the past 4 weeks has had the 3rd most fantasy points at the tight end position, and has the 4th most fantasy points per game. So that should tell you exactly. Oh, sorry. And I should include that Travis Kelce has the 12th most fantasy football points on the tight end over that time span. And he's tight end 15 in fantasy points per game. And then flex, Bucky Irving or DeAndre Swift. To me, that's a pretty easy Bucky Irving, especially against the Packers. I know Micah Parsons out, but they're still a legitimate run threat. And I don't think that Micah Parsons' absence is going to fully diminish that. What are your thoughts, Sean?
I agree. Even with Parsons out, Swift and there's a share there too between Swift and Monangai. Bucky's, like we said, the red zone is an issue, but in terms of between the 20s, Bucky's gonna most likely handle that, and hopefully produce.
Yeah. And they play the Carolina Panthers, where there's going to be a little bit more give and take on the ground than that. Also at this time, DeAndre Swift and Bucky Irving over the past 4 weeks have averaged Swift 13.4 fantasy points a game and Bucky Irving 12.6. So I don't think you can. I think both of them are viable options. I'm going Bucky Irving, though, on that. Let's keep going with our show. Let's go into Tetairoa McMillan. He is wide receiver 15 in our rankings. He's got a range of 10. His high is 12. His low is 22. On the season, he has 27% target share, 43% air yard share, and 37% end zone target share. However, over the past 4 weeks, I always like to do recency bias because recency bias can tell us a lot. He's had 20% target share, so that has gone down. However, his air yards has gone up to 44%, and he's getting 50% of the end zone targets. That is a great leap for him. Right now, Tetairoa McMillan on the season averages the 21st most fantasy points per game in half-point PPR, and over the past 4 weeks, it has dropped down to the 33rd most during that time. He is not getting the receptions that he should be getting as of late. It's not great. His target share has gone down. In week 11, he had 12 targets for 8 receptions. Week 12, 7 targets for 2 receptions. Week 13, 2 targets for 1 reception. And he scored touchdowns in all of those games. And then last week against New Orleans, had 4 targets for 2 receptions. He also is facing injury right now. And they're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have, why did that just close? They shouldn't be doing that. Gives up the 17th fewest fantasy points against a wide receiver. So literally median average, league average. They're not letting any crazy performances happen as of late, but you are getting some weirder ones. Like Mac Hollins had 106 yards and 6 receptions. Tyrell Shavers from Buffalo, that's when he had his big game. David Sills this past week had 6 receptions for 78 yards from Atlanta. So it is a possibility that he breaks out, that he does do some good stuff. But with all of those options that Bryce Young has, and that Bryce Young over the past 3 weeks has literally thrown 18, 15, and 15 completions during that time, I'd be hesitant to start McMillan. Plus, again, he's injured. He did not practice today. He's expected to practice tomorrow. But that doesn't mean everything.
Yeah. It's to me, Tet, you put him on, any other team, not any other, but obviously a majority of your teams, and his numbers would be, probably doubled at least.
Yeah.
Just it's a Bryce issue. You look at Bryce; he's only thrown 2. That flat, that rando game that he went off on 448 yards, but he's only thrown 2 other games this year over 200 yards.
And one of them was 206 yards.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely that. And his rushing has increased a lot over his last 3 games.
Yeah,
before we
game,
get,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go for it. Finish your thought.
I was just gonna say that last game, it's showing Bryce throwing 163, but that one pass to Coker was, 3/4 of that. So
yeah, exactly. We do have a couple questions. Defenses, Chargers or Cincinnati? I'll tell you, I don't pay attention to to defenses too often.
Chargers, and without looking up any, major stats, Chargers is the defense to go between those two.
Chargers plays Cowboys and Bengals plays Dolphins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still lean Chargers, but I'll tell you, not what we're known for. Half point PPR, Goddard or Parkinson. He's getting so much more consistent work. Goddard is in and out and very touchdown reliant. John?
Yeah, it's closer than all the other Parkinson questions we've had so far. Goddard's getting a handful more touches or a handful more targets the last couple weeks. Let me see here. Not to take up too much time.
You're all good.
But his targets, 7, 10. Yeah, the last 2 weeks, he's had, a good amount of targets from Jalen. But then before that, it was 4, 2, 5. So it was, like you said, back and forth. And if Devontae's out, I would, full go on Parkinson, but I still lean Parkinson.
Yes. Okay, and I like shavers, not a fan of the 80s bush. Jamie. Okay, do you believe London plays this week? I have no idea. If he's even the slightest bit injured, I say you don't play him because you don't have anything to play for. You don't. You just don't. I don't think you play him. Brissett.
Raheem can't make. You're fine. Raheem can't make up his mind on what he wants to classify in day to day or week to week or anything like that. So I wouldn't have any confidence in London playing.
No, me either. Jake Brisket, Nix, or Purdy. I think you go Brissett every single time in this. He's the only one that's proving to be top 12, a QB1 every single time. Because if you look at Bo Nix's games besides last week against the Packers, his highest fantasy total was 15.37 points since week 10. Week 10 through week 14, that was his highest fantasy total. So you cannot always rely on him. Yes, he had a fantastic game against the Packers, but that's not always going to happen.
Yeah, and Purdy going against Indy. I mean, they kept Seattle quiet last week. I understand Darnold is not up to Purdy's level to some extent, comparative, but at the same time, if you can keep him quiet the way that he's been able to feed JSN, I could see them doing the same thing with Purdy. So Brissett is, like we said earlier, he's got a floor of 18 points. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, my wide receiver 3. Oh, wait. No, we've got to do your running back 2, don't we?
We on 2 here?
Yeah, you're on running back 2. Let's do it.
I took RJ Harvey. He's running back 21 this week, a range of 18, starting at 16 all the way to 34. 58.3 rushing yards per game. He's got 14.9 fantasy points per game, a total of 4 touchdowns the last 3 weeks. He's had 65 yards and 1 touchdown before the injury last week, but he is back on the practice field today. He's touched the ball 13, 17, 19 times, with Jaleel only seeing 6, 4, and 2 times. So there's, he's obviously got the bulk of the carries. He's had 9 receptions in the last 3 weeks. They do play Jacksonville this week, who has been a pretty stout defense. They are the best in the NFL against the run, only allowing 86.3 yards on the season. However, the last 3 weeks, they've upped that a tiny bit to 95.3 yards. They do finish playoffs in Kansas City. They're the 7th best against the run. So if you're looking ahead, focus on this week first. But if you're looking ahead to see what your championship's going to look like when you do make it past, because you listen to us, they are allowing 140 yards per game. KC was last 3 weeks. So I think, Denver can make their way with that.
Yeah, I think so. With the way that Casey's kind of, you can just feel it. You
Mm-hmm.
can feel it that the energy's gone. As somebody that lives in Kansas and is surrounded by Chiefs fans, the energy is gone. They don't want to. It's nope. It's first step of the grief stage. They're in full denial. Need two of these from Cap for Life 135. Brees Hall, DJ Moore, Harold Fannin, or Schultz. PPR, flex, and tight end needed. I'm going Harold Fannin. Harold Fannin has been a monster and is Shador's favorite target. Oh, I think since Shador started, Fannin has had 31 receptions, and the next highest receiver for the Browns has 16. I saw that the other day and was pretty astounded. I'm going DJ Moore, especially if Reader and Burden, Rome Adunze and Luther Burden are out, and then Harold Fannin. What are your thoughts, Sean?
Where is he? It was just two. Yeah, Fannin. Like you said, that's where he turns every time he steps back. And then DJ Moore finally showed up last week and caught a couple touchdowns. So want to ride that hot hand. And with the injuries, they're going to have to look his way more. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. And then Stroud or Stafford? Stroud plays Las Vegas. I don't think that's even a question. Stafford plays Seattle. Stroud faces Las Vegas. At Stroud.
Yeah, you gotta take the favorable matchup on that one. Obviously Stafford is the better quarterback, but the matchup is, gonna take that one.
Absolutely. Also, I do appreciate all the emojis that you've got here. Proud of you. Okay. Let's go to the wide receiver 3 tier. I want to talk to you about Brian Thomas Jr., who I did talk about in our opening question and has kind of not been my favorite person as of late, because 2 weeks ago I traded BTJ and a first for George Pickens and like a third. And they have definitely swapped their outcomes. Absolutely, Captain. So BTJ is wide receiver 28. He's got a range of 13, highest ranking of 26, lowest ranking of 39. He is currently, if my page would load, there we go. He is currently wide receiver 40 in fantasy points per game across the season. However, over the past 4 weeks, he's bumped up to wide receiver 29 in fantasy points per game. And crazy thing to say, but the Jaguars have 3 wide receivers over the past 4 weeks that are in the top 30. 3 wide receivers. See you, lover boy. Jamie said, gotta hop off, lover boy. So, which is crazy. 3 Jags up there, let alone what we've been seeing Travis Etienne do, which has just been insane. Running back 4 fantasy points per game over the last 4 weeks. Let's talk about his target share, air yard share, end zone target share. I like these statistics the most. I think they give us a big picture of how the ball is going to them. How far is that ball going? How often, yardage wise? And are they really a part of that end zone game? That's why I choose these 3 things. So across the season, Brian Thomas has a 21% target share, 34% air yard share, and 26% end zone target share. Over the past 4 weeks, that is a different story a little bit. 20% target share again. His air yard share is up to 36, and his end zone target share is 27%. So those numbers are pretty comparable right there. So there's not a huge change in what is happening. I blanked for a second. Oh, this week they are playing the Denver Broncos, who give up the 6th fewest fantasy points to the wide receiver position. We did allude to that earlier during our rankings question of the day. So if you want to hear about that, please go back to there. BTJ as a wide receiver 3 or flex play. I'm okay with that this week. I think the experts are on the right spot with it.
Yeah, I agree. And you look at Trevor, he's completely, done, moons better than, the last 4 weeks, no less than 230 passing yards. He's just been doing what we thought he was going to do 2 years ago, in the air and on the ground. And he's now got a complement of receivers to help him with that too, with adding Jacoby, and that's taken away with names blanking me now with the injury from this year's rookie.
Oh, Travis Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter. Thank you. So I think Trevor's done, made that, and we've just been waiting on BTJ to wake up too. It's another one of those that just started off slow for the season, but now we have the ball rolling. My running back 3 tier I went with was Kenneth Gainwell. He's running back 28, range of 12, starting at 19 to 31, averaging 12.2 fantasy points per game. He's got 32 rushing yards per game, 4.8 yards per rush, 23.7 receiving yards per game. He's got 57 receptions on the season with 2 touchdowns. And he's got a snap share of 42, 48, and 52% the last 3 weeks. So he's right at that halfway mark between him and Jaylen Warren. He does have an 87% catch rate. So he's basically taken over the receiving side with the backs. Jaylen Warren, pretty much a 50-50 split. They both have 4 touchdowns each on the ground on the season. He's out targeting him, Gainwell is out targeting Warren 65 targets to 38 targets. They are facing Detroit this weekend. Detroit is actually allowing 125 rushing yards per game. And next weekend, they go against Cleveland. We were talking about them earlier in their rushing game. They've now got all the way up to 139 yards to opposing running backs. So there's plenty of points to be had in both of those defenses for the running backs.
Yeah. You've got some stellar points right there. Kenneth Gainwell has been just a shock this year. Mm-hmm. So it's been kind of fun to I always like when somebody like a Rico Dowdle or a Tony Pollard or a Kenny Gainwell comes out of nowhere and gets to take full advantage of a new opportunity in front of them.
He's one of those waiver wire I wish I would have grabbed, but I thought it was just a weak type of thing.
Yep. And I was sewing on Caleb Johnson this offseason. You can have sold Kenneth Gainwell to me. Half point PPR start 2, J-Mo, Egbuka, London, Keenan Allen. J-Mo easily. J-Mo is playing elite football right now. Keenan Allen is not. Egbuka is not. McMillan is very hit or miss and might not play this week. London, I think you play London if he plays. And if he doesn't, you go, I don't know, McMillan. This is not a problem you think you'd have at this point. But
yeah, between McMillan and Egbuka is close, but I'm gonna lean with the wide receiver 1, and that's not Egbuka. He was early on in the year. Yeah. It isn't anymore. Like we said earlier, he's taken the third seat now, and maybe even the fourth. But McMillan, I think, is where you got to try, and they are going against Tampa Bay, so you hope that he can see the same kind of results that Pitts showed.
Yeah. I'm going to go real quick over what the rankings report shows. So JMO is wide receiver 9. Tet is wide receiver 15. Egbuka is wide receiver 32. Keenan Allen is wide receiver 40. And let's see, Drake London, I don't think he's on here. Oh, yes, he's wide receiver 34 because some people have him at the bottom of their rankings. Some of them have him at their top of their rankings, like he'd be fully healthy.
If he plays, then this is where he's at. But
yeah,
most of them, 3 out of 4, have him not even showing up. So
exactly. So, okay, let's go ahead and take time for one more tier on each of these because we're getting close to the end, and I want to make sure that we do a good job on what we have rather than rushing the last 2 tiers. So wide receiver 4 tier, Troy Franklin for me of the Denver Broncos. They're playing Jacksonville. His range right now is high of 27, low 40, meaning a range of 13. He on the season is wide receiver 33 in fantasy points per game. However, over the past 4 weeks, that has gone down to 41 in the 41st overall. And that points per game has gone down from 9.5 to 7.8%, which is not something that you want to look for. That's not promising. His target share on the season, 20%. Air yard percentage is 33%. And end zone targets is 30%. Oh, however, over the past 4 weeks, it has made a big difference. Something else I want to include is on this one is routes, how he's run routes. 75% throughout the season. Over the past 4 weeks, he's only run 56% of routes. His target share has gone down from 20% to 13%. His air yard share has gone down from 33 to 14%. End zone target share has gone down from 33 to 14%. And that is because Pat Bryant, the rookie, and him kind of a switch spots where Pat Bryant has a 15% target share, 33% air yard share, 25% end zone target share, which is very much what Troy Franklin has had throughout the season. Now, Pat Bryant was out last week, which allowed Troy Franklin an opportunity to step up, and he was 6 for 6 at 85 yards and a touchdown against the Packers. But he's not showing the consistency that he kind of was leaning towards in the middle of the season, where we were like, oh, he's outplaying Cortland Sutton. That is not the case anymore, unfortunately. And this week, Denver is playing Jacksonville. Jacksonville gives up the 15th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position. So right in the middle of the pack. There are some games like last week, they gave up 58 and 53 yards to the Jets receivers of Adonai Mitchell and Isaiah Williams. The week before, 79 and 80 to Pittman and Pierce. The week before, 118 to, the week before was Tennessee. Don't count that week. The week before that is 18 and 53 to Wilson and Dortch. They're giving up good opportunities for yardage to multiple receivers. Absolutely. Thank you, Slick. But I'm concerned about him. He's also a flex play. He's not going to be your safest play. He's not going to be your consistent guy. And I think he does have the opportunity. I think that opportunity is there, but Franklin will be back, and so all that might go down the drain.
Yeah, he showed early on, and it might even been one of our last shows that you and I did where we were talking about probably Sutton, because we were saying he's second in line now because Troy was taken, getting more attention there early on in the year. But now it's a mixture of flipping the script to where Cortland Sutton's just been lighting it up. 7 for 113 this past week, 6 for 62, 5 for 62. So he was getting more attention there. And then, as you said, Pat Bryant kind of got back in front of him. So
yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's end with your running back 4 tier right here.
My 4 tier was Chuba Hubbard. He's running back 39. I promise I'm not a Carolina Panther fan. It just happened to be how we talked today. Range of 15, starting at 32, ending in the 47. He's only getting 11.2 fantasy points per game, 42.7 yards per game the last 3 games, 4.6 yards per carry, 7 receptions, 77 yards, 1 TD. Dowdle has still been handling bulk of the carries, 40. He's had 40. Chuba's gotten 28 the last 3 games. Carolina's battling for the division, facing Tampa Bay, giving up 415 yards on the ground the last 3 games. They've given up 4.5 yards per carry and 4 touchdowns. Carolina should be able to throw in Tampa Bay, which if they can jump out to that, then that, hopefully they can rely on that running game to eat the game away and kill the clock. They do end their fantasy season at Seattle, and we've touched on that enough tonight to know that their defense is, top of the league, only allowing 94.3 rushing yards per game the last 3 weeks. So early on, we were full on Dowdle. Chuba's trying to let everybody know he's still there, but Dowdle's still the head of that duo.
Yeah. I'm kind of saddened by how the Buccaneers are playing this year, especially down the stretch. It's not good for fantasy purposes, but it could give fantasy opportunities to their opponents, like you were just stating. Okay. Thank you so much for listening, watching, for everybody that is here. We appreciate you. Go win your fantasy football championships because, get to them this week. So win this week. So the next week when you come back, you can get advice on how to win your championship and who are some of these guys to avoid and who are some of these guys to jump for joy on. Okay, John, do you have anything before we sign out?
Couple quick things. We're always answering questions, start sits, and anything like DFS. So look us up on Discord, Fantasy Now Plus.
Yes.
Watch all of our videos on YouTube and the Fins Network. And then for those of you that are done in the playoffs this year, and even if you're not, once the season does end, don't forget Fantasy Now Plus does have a playoff league.
Yes.
Go to fantasynowplus.com. That's fantasynowplus.com/playoff fantasy football. It's a 13-man roster, 1 player from any single team. So you'll have that 14th team. You'll just have to decide which doesn't make it, but that's submitted before the wild card round. It's a Superflex format with a kicker. So it's $10. Come on, join in, and let's have some fun with all of us here at Fantasy Now Plus.
Absolutely. Also, our current subscribers on our YouTube channel, Fantasy Now Plus, is at 938. We'd love to get that up to 1,000 by the end of the season. So
tell your friends, tell your family,
share it. Use
tell your 80-year-old parents.
YouTube. Use your illegitimate YouTube pages. Make a new account so we can get all of that stuff. Okay, thank you so much, and you all have a wonderful week. Deuces.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.